Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Diana. I am a retention specialist in the Academic Advancement Center. This is our STEM Cliff undergraduate research. Thanks for being here. We have two folks who will be helping present for our information today. First, want to introduce Dr. Samber. Did I pronounce that right? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So just want to introduce Dr. Samber, who received his BS degree in chemistry from, is it SUNY Binghamton? SUNY Binghamton in 2006 under the guidance of Dr. David. Ooh, I'm gonna have a hard time pronouncing these names. What was that?
Deutschman.
He received his doctorate in 2011 from Colorado State University in chemistry under the guidance of Dr. Bruce Parkinson, where he focused on quantum dot and polymer sensitized solar cells. From there, Dr. Samber worked as an NSF AACF postdoctoral fellow in the laboratory of Dr. Peng Chang at Cornell University. In 2016, Dr. Samber returned to Colorado State University as an assistant professor of chemistry and began his own research group. In that time, the Samber Lab has published nearly 40 peer-reviewed papers with a focus on solar energy conversion and electrochemical energy storage. His most recent award includes the Royce W. Murray Young Investigator Award from 2022, the NSF Career Award, the DOE Early Career Award, the Cialog Fellowship Advanced Energy Storage, the Norman Edmund Inspiration Award, and the Air Force Young Investigator Award. So thank you for being here. Welcome, Dr. Samber.
Thank you for having me, Diana. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so I'm pretty passionate about undergrad research. And I want to talk about three things today. So the first thing is, what does it mean if you're an undergrad at CSU? What does that mean for you? What does it mean to be at an R1 institution? What does R1 mean? So the R stands for research, and the 1 stands for kind of the level of productivity. So believe it or not, if you're an undergraduate at CSU, you're at the top level of research in the country of all the academic institutions. So we're all familiar with getting up and going to class, and like we all know what class looks like, go to lecture hall, but actually there's this whole vibrant community going on campus where behind the buildings and the different rooms, there's actually students doing research. There's other undergraduates doing research, there's graduate students doing research, and there's actually professional postdocs who have PhDs that are also doing research. So there's this whole life of research going on at this institution, and you should feel entitled to go and engage in this experience. So what do I mean by that? You should pick an area, like a problem that interests you. You want to help the environment. You want to learn different, how exercising influences something about your body, and health and human exercise science, biology. We have all these different departments, and all the different professors in the departments are researching state-of-the-art topics. If they're at CSU, they're working on the best stuff, and all the faculty here are awesome. And turns out they actually want you in their research groups. So I didn't know this, like when I was an undergrad. I had no idea that this was going on. I don't really recall how I got involved with undergraduate research. I actually think in my major, as a chemistry major, they forced us to seek people out in my junior year, which was too late probably. I could have started way earlier. So I'm telling you this now because I think it's really important. The second thing I want to talk about, what are the benefits of doing undergraduate research? I think there's two things. I think first, there's a lot of students at CSU. There may be many students who graduate with a 3.0 GPA, but there will not be 2 students who are in the Samber lab with a 3.0 GPA, probably. This will be a defining characteristic on your CV, on your resume. And if you're successful in undergraduate research, you can publish, you can actually have products that you can point to. Like, I worked in this lab, we studied this problem, these were my results, and they were published in this journal. And these are all quantifiable things that another student at CSU can't say. So I really encourage you, it's a way to stand out from a job seeking perspective. And then the second thing, of course, is you would choose something that really interests you and you're contributing to society through advancing knowledge. And that's what's going on at CSU. So that's kind of the benefits of doing it. And the last thing I want to talk about is how do you get started? So maybe there's not one way to answer this. One simple way is what it was for me was I had a professor who was this professor, David Deutschman, that Diana said, he was my physical chemistry class professor. And I just asked him to be I said, hey, I heard about undergraduate research and we have this class that we have to do. Can you be my advisor? And that's how I got started. It was just from a professor. We didn't even have a very special relationship. I was just in the class. There were other professors who I was more close with, actually had a better rapport, but they weren't taking position. There was no available slots. So the moral of that story is don't get dejected. I mean, and I'll tell you reasons for that in a second. So one place to start for undergraduate research is talk to a professor that you might already know. The second thing is how do you use, let's say, the CSU websites to find professors. So let's just pretend I'm an undergraduate in chemistry, right? And I've defined myself. I'm a chemistry major, and I'm going to stick with the chemistry department and try to find research opportunities. And I should also say you could branch out. You don't have to stick with your major. You can go even broader. Like I can go to material science, even though I'm a chemist. That's totally allowed. I have chemical engineers that work in my group. I have electrical engineers, environmental engineers. So you should really look at the websites and read them and see if it interests you. Don't worry so much about the majors. Okay, but let's pretend I'm a chemist and I want to go look for a chemistry professor. So I'm going to share my screen for a second and tell you how I would do this. So here's the CSU chemistry department website. And okay, so I'm scrolling through. Okay, there's all sorts of stuff. I want to draw your attention. All CSU websites have the same branding. So they usually have the CSU logo, then the department, and then they have some tabs here. And because we're looking for faculty, I would draw your attention. You want to go to here, faculty and staff, and you see there's like a lot of options. One place on our department is people. So to go to people. And now, for whatever reason, it pulls up a chemistry directory. There are a ton of people on here. And I want to draw your attention to a few, like the first few options. So this is the name of the person, and then underneath is their title. Folks who are professor, that means Professor Chris Ackerson has actually gone from assistant professor to associate professor, which is a middle rank, to full professor. So he is the highest rank you can achieve in our department or on campus. You'll notice the next person is an assistant teaching professor. So Professor Anna Allen, if I were to click here and see what they're all about, you notice it's basically office contact. There's no sort of information about research because Professor Anna Allen is an expert in teaching and does not run a research group with PhD students and graduate students. Let's check what Professor Ackerson's click gives us. So I click here. Now I've got a phone number. I've got some info about Chris, a one-liner about, okay, nanoparticle structure, chemistry, synthesis, and nanoparticles for biological imaging. How do I interpret this if I'm a new student? Let's say I don't know anything about nanoscience. This person's research seems to deal with nanomaterials, and the one application that they're talking about is biological imaging. If those things interest you, click more. If they don't, move on to the next person. So that's one, don't feel free to just peruse. But let's say I'm interested. Now I can go to the Ackerson Lab website. And now I'm here. Now I can start, I read, oh, clonable nanoparticles. This looks cool. I can click on the different, I can start to explore this website. And one thing I want to just say at this point, you can go to the publication tab. I really recommend this. Go to publication tab. And I think you're looking for, is this person active in research recently? So this lab has publications on here from 2020, pretty recent. And I think it's safe to assume, and they also tell you, okay, it was only updated in July. Safe to assume this lab is a research active lab. Let me show you a case where this is not the case. So I would say this is an eligible candidate. You could email this professor. I've read your website. I'm liking this project on clonable nanoparticles. I'm wondering if you have any undergraduate research positions. If I go back here, let's click on somebody else where they have this title called emeritus. Open it. Okay, notice so far even more of a research description than Chris's last website, and there's a website here. Okay, in this case, it's a dead link. At this point, I'll just say, Warren Anderson is professor emeritus, and emeritus is a status where you've moved into retirement. And you might not, I didn't know what that meant when I was an undergrad. And so I'm just pointing it out here. You might not, let's say you're interested in X-ray diffraction, but this person is probably, you don't need to email them. And don't be offended if you did email them, you might not hear anything back. So as I scroll through this website, notice there's a lot of emeritus on our website. These are folks who are probably not taking students. A safe bet, perhaps, is people that are lower in rank, like myself. I'm an assistant professor. We're the lowest rank. We're eager to have young students who are going to be successful in the lab. So Jeff Bandar is someone who does organic chemistry, looking at new medicines. So if that interests you, and I would encourage you to reach out to people who are assistant or associate professor. They're definitely active. So with that, I think I'll wrap up. I want to say one more thing about kind of funding or the closing the deal of getting the position. So here's my opinion. College is a time where you can invest in yourself. And I think for undergraduate research, you might want to think about, you're going to commit 3 to 6 hours per week, maybe on the 6th end. This is something I do in my lab. I ask the student to commit 2 3-hour blocks per week for undergraduate research. I would love to pay the student for that work. Sometimes I have funding available, sometimes I don't. The funding comes from a federal grant that I have to apply for and get funding. So one easy way to get the position is to think about, do you have the time, and are you financially able to kind of invest in yourself, and you're doing basically an internship where you're not going to be paid. If you get good results, it could turn into the data that goes into the grant that the professor can use to get you funding, as well as there's CSU funding options available through different fellowships and different opportunities. Like, if you're just interested in getting your foot in the door and getting going, you might want to consider volunteering your time and consider it as an investment in yourself. And who knows where it could lead. My opinion is it can only lead to positive outcomes. But faculty understand that you may not be able to accept the position if they don't pay you. So this is something you have to consider. And actually, this might be a great place. I'll stop and say, if you ever had any questions about this, just shoot me an email and we can have a phone call about how would you navigate that decision. You really want to work in this person's lab, but you have another job off campus and you can't do it. What do you do? And that's right there. I'll stop and invite you. If you have any questions, just email me.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I mean, I think that you ended us on a really good question regarding how to make that decision, things to consider. I do want to mention and just jump in during this time that the Career Center does offer a CSU unpaid/underpaid internship support program. It's an application process. again, look that up with the Career Center. And it recognizes that folks sometimes may not be able to take up opportunities like this, like research opportunities, because of funding pieces, because maybe students already have paying job off campus or on campus. There might be different things that are pulling them for summer or during the semester that need their attention. And so please look into this opportunity. But it's always good to just connect about those options before students kind of decide for themselves that it's not an opportunity that it can't happen. So definitely connect with faculty and check in with your retention specialist with resources on campus. But I just want to make sure that folks know about that resource through the Career Center.
I should also say work study is another option where I've had
Yeah.
where I pay, it's something like the federal government or CSU pays 70% and
Yeah.
the faculty pays 30. So if you approach a faculty and say, I've been approved for work study, it
Mhm.
makes it very appealing.
Yes, so make sure to indicate that on FAFSA. And if folks are not eligible for work study through FAFSA, the Office of Financial Aid will open up an institutional work study application on RAMWeb, typically May 1st. They'll always indicate it on their website, but it's another way for students to apply for work study if they're not awarded through FAFSA, but it's more institutional funds. Awesome. All the great stuff. Thank you for sharing. Now I want to hand it off to Esther. Esther, do you want to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your experience with undergraduate research?
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Give me just 1 second to share my screen.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, I think we should be good. My name is Esther. I'm a second-year undergraduate student. I'm double majoring in chemistry, hence the picture, and mathematics with an applied mathematics concentration. And most importantly,
I'm only seeing your black screen.
Oh,
I don't know if Diana.
I also see, I didn't know if you were waiting to like share another.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was sharing already. Let's give it one more shot. Haven't had to use Zoom in so long because of in-person classes.
No worries.
Okay, can you see it now?
I'm only seeing the black screen again.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
All right.
Do you have different like desktops open?
Yeah, I tried to open it in a different desktop.
Okay. I'm not sure, or
I can also just talk through it. And it's also
okay.
Here, I'll give it one more try real fast.
And
then if not, I'll just. Did that work?
No, I'm not seeing anything.
Okay, sounds good. No worries. All right, well, I'll just talk through my presentation then. So I am a second-year undergraduate student, and I'm double majoring in chemistry and applied mathematics with an applied mathematics concentration. And most importantly to this, I'm an undergraduate researcher in the Samber Lab at Colorado State University. So the story of how I got into research was I took a chemistry seminar my freshman year. So this is at like the very first semester of my freshman year here, where we had lectures by a bunch of different professors. And Dr. Samber happened to give a presentation during that seminar, talking about the kind of research he did, especially solar energy conversion. And he happened to mention that he was looking for an undergraduate to work in the lab to synthesize the kinds of materials that he was making. And so the whole reason I wanted to go into chemistry in the first place was I want to work in renewable energy. And so hearing about that, I was really excited. and I wrote Dr. Samber an email asking if he was still looking for someone to do that. And just a few days later, I heard back, and a week later, I was, already sitting in on meetings and everything. So essentially, the moral of the story is it's never too early to start thinking about doing research. Like I said, it was at the very beginning of my freshman year, so I knew virtually nothing about chemistry. But I learned what I needed to along the way, and I asked questions. And now that I've taken more chemistry courses and understand a lot more, I'm really grateful that I started doing research early on. So the actual research that I do, we do work in 2D materials that are used in solar energy conversion. And I work on, right now I work in the laser lab with an AFM, which is a fancy atomic force microscope, characterizing these samples on a very, very small level. So the materials that we work on have potential uses in solar energy conversion, as well as other things like telecommunications. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about what I've gotten out of the undergraduate research experience. Most importantly, working in the lab and going to these meetings and doing research has really helped me figure out that research and chemistry is what I want to do for a career. Before I started doing this research, I really wasn't sure. But now I do know that I want to go to grad school, and I do want to continue doing experimental research. I've also gotten a lot of knowledge about the field, besides just what I'm learning in my classes about chemistry. Working in the lab really helps me see those concepts applied, and it's really cool to be able to see things that I learn about in class and see them again on a real life scale, which is really exciting. And I've also gotten a lot of experience doing science, giving presentations, designing experiments, and using a lot of different instruments, which is helpful in a lot of the other things I do too. And I also gotten a lot of connections working with the different people here. So I also wanted to talk a little bit about other research opportunities. There's a lot of great research opportunities at Colorado State and a lot of different programs. I've heard about the Murals program and a few others. But there's also opportunities to do research outside of school. So last summer, I actually did an REU, which is research experience for undergraduates at Penn State. I did it in 2D scalable nano manufacturing through the Resident Scholars Visiting Program. And the whole reason I did that is we were having a lot of trouble synthesizing the materials that we needed in the lab here. So Dr. Samber encouraged me to apply to this program, and I just applied online and I managed to get it. And I went to Penn State for the summer. So I had a lot of really great experiences there too. It was my first time really being like outside of the state I grew up in. So besides just research opportunities, it was really cool to, be in a different place, and it was all funded. So I was able to, go there and live there without any additional cost. And I was able to meet a lot of really great people at the top of their field too, and do a bunch of research that we don't have the facilities for at CSU just because we do different kind of stuff there. And that was a really amazing opportunity, and I'm really excited that I did that. So the main takeaways and what's next is that I'm excited to continue working in the Samber lab. I'm planning on staying here until I graduate, as long as Dr. Samber will let me. And then I'm thinking about next summer, because I had such a great time doing a research experience at Penn State. I'm thinking of doing something at a national lab or doing another research experience at a different university. And then after that, I'm looking forward to applying to grad school and doing more research there. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me.
Thank you, Esther, for sharing. I just want to throw in some questions for the two of you, whoever wants to share some general questions that I think might come up in some student meetings that we have when we talk about research in our programs is I think some of the things that you mentioned, Dr. Sember, like what are ways that folks are hearing about research, right? Are folks looking online for looking at faculty? So what's the most common way that folks are hearing about it? Is it in their classroom? And how can folks engage with that a little bit more? Do either of you want to share anything in regards to how students can continue to engage with it, feel more comfortable hearing about it, or if they're wanting to learn more? Esther, you talked a little bit about you went to a session regarding the research that was going on. Yeah, what are other opportunities that students can start doing if they're thinking about it but still unsure or learning a little bit more about research?
Esther, why don't you go first if you have anything? If not, I can go, but.
Sure, that sounds good. So yeah, the way I heard about it, it was actually in one of my classes. A bunch of professors came and talked. So I didn't actually go out looking too much for it. It just kind of happened. But I have a lot of other friends who are doing research through the murals program, which is designed to get students involved in research too. But I would say probably one of the more useful ways is to just talk to the different professors that you have in your classes. Even if they aren't running a research group or if they're not open for undergraduates, chances are they know who in their department is. And they can point you in the right direction and give you some resources. So I would definitely say start with your professors and start with what Dr. Samber said, looking on the website for different things that might sound interesting.
Yeah, the only thing, I'm going to let Esther take every question because she's really good at this. The only thing I'll say that hasn't been said is you may have in your major an undergraduate advisor. That could be another resource to do exactly what Esther said. Of even if they can't help you directly, they can put you in touch with the right people. So that's a third option.
Thank you. What are some things that Esther, if you want to share your experience that I know that you started off pretty early engaging with research, which I think is great. It's never too early to start looking into that. What are some things that you feel you might have needed to help facilitate more engagement with research opportunities, or that you feel you've seen maybe some of your friends or peers in the classroom are needing to feel more comfortable engaging with research opportunities on campus?
All right. So I feel like the biggest barrier to people being involved in research is that people simply don't know that you can do research as an undergraduate, which is why I think sessions like this are really important. Because I mean, before I had a seminar about it, I had no idea that I could get involved in research during the school year and also during the summer. So yeah, all of my friends who ask that, they're always really surprised when I tell people oh yeah, I work in the lab at Colorado State in chemistry. And I think it's just important for people to realize that it's an option for everyone and you definitely should take advantage of it.
Thank you for sharing. I don't have any other questions. Is there anything that you all, any last pieces that you all would like to share with any student who's engaging with this pre-recording?
I think there are a lot of great things that were said. We probably covered a lot of the major stuff, and Esther and I are both available to be contacted. And I think that would be a next step if you have any further questions.
Yeah, thank you both. Please feel free to, if you want, I am more than happy to include contact information. The way that we offer recordings is on our website. We'll include a link to the recording, a description. So if you'll are comfortable with that, feel free to let me know if you would like it for me to include contact information in there. And then for folks who are engaging with us at a later time, just wanting to offer up that we will be also hosting another workshop tomorrow, November 10th at 3:30, where we will have Bridget Johnson, who helps coordinate the murals research symposium on campus, which is a huge event that, like Esther talked about. And we'll also be talking a little bit about United in STEM, which is an initiative on campus for undergraduate students to engage with STEM opportunities, specifically a lot of our students of color. So please feel free to engage with that. We'll be communicating about a follow-up for folks who can't make it to that one as well. But thank you both for being here. Thank you, Dr. Sanborn. Thank you, Esther.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.